Hi Blackie, this is Fernando from Metal Eyewitness from Argentina. W.A.S.P was my main metal band when I was a young boy. My first important metal I was into, metal band. And later when the Crimson Idol came out, for me it's still one of the best pieces of music from metal. So, right now, would you tell the story of Jonathan in a different way? Have you something changed about your views of the musical industry right now?
Well, the biggest change is that there isn't much of a musical industry anymore. You know, I mean, that all went away with computers. But the story of the Crimson Idol is basically a simple story. It's about a kid looking for love, and he can't find it. And so, at the end of the day, like I said, it really is a simple story. It's not complicated at all. What we call window dressing, or the smaller things that are built around it, may seem to make it more complicated than it is, but it really isn't. And I think that that's one of the reasons people gravitate to that record. I don't think it's complicated at all. And so there was a doctor in Los Angeles, and he was a throat specialist. And this guy was impressive because when you walked into his office, most doctors have their little certificates on the wall of what school they went to and things like that. This guy's office, floor to ceiling, all the way around on every wall, gold and platinum records. Frank Sinatra, Stevie Nicks, Rod Stewart. I mean, everybody was on that wall. And so he went in and he examined me. And he says, okay, I'm going to tell you the truth. He says, you got a serious problem here. You may never sing again. But if you do exactly what I tell you to do, I'll get you through this. He says, the first thing that's going to happen is you're not going to speak for 6 weeks. The phone rings at your house, let it ring. You go to a restaurant, you take a pen and a paper, and you write it. So this went on for 6 weeks. The temptation when that happens is to test it from time to time to see if it's there. I don't know if any of you have ever gone 6 hours without talking before, especially if you need to answer a question from someone. Go 6 weeks. It's like being in this deaf, dumb, and blind hell. You can't really communicate with anybody. And the whole time that's happening, your brain is going, you're never going to sing again. You're never going to sing again. So at the end of the 6 weeks, he got me through it. He says, all right, let me ask you this. He says, do you ever exercise before you sing? And I said, no. He says, well, you watch the Olympics? He says, you see those sprinters out there? You see them stretching before they run? And I said, yeah. He says, what do you think they're doing? Stretching? And I said, okay. He says, warm up, get ready before you go out. He says, if you do that, you'll get through this. And so I found that over a period of time, the stretching not only helped me from becoming hurt again, it actually strengthened me in ways that I'd never known before. So it ended up being a blessing in disguise. That's a long story to tell you what really happened. We're about 3 weeks away from finishing the next one. So it will be out next year. And it will be called Golgotha. I thought I was mad at God. And after 20 years, I realized I was not mad at God, I was mad at man for the institutional thinking that I had been indoctrinated with. And I discovered then, whether it's the Bible or anything else you ever want to know in life, don't listen to somebody else telling you. You want to find out, go find out for yourself. Because ultimately, you're going to be responsible for yourself. And so that's what I did. And when I did that, I realized, like, I wasn't mad at God anymore. These guys that had been telling me this stuff for the longest time, I realized that they had an agenda. And when I discovered that, my life got a lot better. I look at it like this. I'm out here, I'm a representative of the Most High God. And I have to be very careful about the things I say and do. You know, I mean, I'm going to answer one day for the things that I've done. And I want to make sure that when I do, that my slate is clean. So, but equally as important as that, I think, is I've been given an opportunity to stand in front of people And you're either going to say something positive or you're going to say something mindless. There is no in between. You are either one or the other. And I'm just trying my best. And I'm not saying that I'm doing it all the time, but I'm trying my best to say something that I think could help somebody's life. I remember on the first album, we had a song called BAD, and a girl came up to me one day, and she says, I want to thank you for that song. And I said, well, what for? And she says, well, I used to be a really bad heroin addict. And when I heard that song, it changed my life, and I don't shoot heroin anymore. Now, that song had nothing to do with heroin. I don't know what she heard in those lyrics. And at the time, I really didn't want to hear that. Because to me, I knew enough about what a statement from her like that meant. To me, that was the R word. And I didn't want to know about it. The R word to me was responsibility. And I didn't want to hear it. And I ran from that as far as I could. And then over a period of time, we got finished with the circus record. And I realized we had made one of the biggest piles of junk in the history of the recording industry. And I said, you know what, that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. If I can't say something with the music, there's no point in me doing it. And I thought, this girl is telling me she's not shooting heroin anymore, and I didn't even try. Imagine what I could do if I tried just a little bit. You know, so that, all those things. And there's a ton of stories that you hear like that. You know, you don't realize the impact that you're having on people. Because I'm one of those kind of people, I live in my own little bubble. I mean, I am one of the worst people to ask opinions about anything. Because I just live in my own little space. You know, if I'm not writing or in the studio, I live way away from everybody and I'm just in my own world. So you don't realize the impact you have on people a lot of times. You know, I mean, when I'm at home, I have a ranch it's a pretty big piece of property. And I get out there and I just walk around and I'm just me. You know, and I forget a lot of times until I go someplace and somebody's interested in, for whatever reason, anything I might have to say. To me, that's always surprising. You know, because quite honestly, I don't think it's that important. But apparently somebody does.